All right, I'm back again with Justin, Sam, and Gil, and this time we're going to talk about some positive stuff here, spring and summer. And I know you have some thoughts. You're already smiling, so tell us, Justin, what do you think?
It's that classic Justin schmirk. You know, you say positive and we think bright and spring. I really have a hunch this will be a gray, misty, cool, foggy spring. Sound temperature is so cold from this cold winter, it's below normal. So as warm fronts try to come in from the south, I think they'll have a real tough time making it into Connecticut. So instead of that bright, warm, mild 60s and 70s, I can see a lot of days on that battleground where we're cool with an east wind and a lot of fog too. So.
Sure, and if you were to study climatology or teleconnections, you're going to talk about the positive NAO and negative NAO. Your thoughts on that would be maybe a milder spring and a maybe warmer summer? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that it would take a little bit longer to get that warm up in spring, so it might be delayed by 2 or 3 or even 4 weeks. But
yes.
I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I actually agree with you there. And then we're going to start to see that severe weather moving in by the end of spring. Of course, very active.
Just a little
summer
delayed.
Season. Yeah. Now, Sam,
I'm getting into a wider perspective. You know, I want to talk all about what's out in the Pacific. You know, we talk about El Nino, we talk about La Nina too.
That's important.
And typically in an El Nino year, you tend to have what's called more wind shear. And when you have more wind shear, that oftentimes will actually make the Atlantic less active because it sort of shears off all these storms. That's what we call it. It does the exact opposite effect on the land, where more wind shear, of course, we know that's one of the most important things for us to have for severe weather. Yeah. So the indications for this year is that it will actually be neutral, which interestingly enough, in a neutral year, that's when you tend to have the worst damaging storms that end up reaching the Atlantic Ocean. Then it goes a little bit more towards El Nino. So we may end up having a little bit more of an active pattern a little bit earlier on the Atlantic, whereas it'll be vice versa. If we go a little El Nino towards the summertime, we might have more severe weather.
And are you thinking El Nino or La Nina? Because,
well, I'm kind of right down the middle. I like to look at how the winter plays out prior to the hurricane season, and I've noticed a strong signal and pattern. Busy winters here with a lot of events, some bigger snow averages, usually precede a very busy hurricane season. The examples are 95, 96. 96, we had a lot of Category 3 storms in the Atlantic. And then not too long ago, but 2010, 2011, that was the last winter. Everyone was roof raking. That following season, we had a tremendous amount of action in the Atlantic, which includes, how can people forget, Irene that came up and created a lot of devastation where people are still picking up the pieces from that now. I also think we need to watch the snowpack up north before we even get to hurricane season.
Flooding, we're talking about,
for the Connecticut River, and that can always be, you know, a big impact deal. And even some of the other rivers, the Housatonic, the Quinnebog, we'll have to watch the snowpack and the influence as we heat up going into spring.
Okay, quick final thoughts, Justin.
I think it's a cool, below-average start to spring, but I think the severe weather comes in later.
Yes, I agree with you on that. I do think that it'll be very active come later June into July and August.
Just offset by a little bit.
And very warm indeed, above average high temperature. Sam?
Yeah, I was going to say the same exact thing, where I think we may end up having more severe weather later on in the season. The Atlantic might be a little bit more active a little earlier in the season.
And Gil?
I think we're going to be cool. I think we'll get probably average precipitation going through spring, but summer I think will be above normal and probably close to normal with precipitation, really watching that hurricane season closely though.